seat, please. Call your next witness.
State's next witness is Investigator Danielle Connor.
If you would raise your right hand to be sworn, please.
You solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
On the board of witness stand, let's step on the record.
Investigator Connor, could you please state your full name for the record?
Danielle Connor, first name D-A-N-I-E-L-L-E, last name C-O-N-N-O-R.
And Investigator Connor, could you please describe where you're employed and what your position is?
I am employed with the Metro Nashville Police Department as a crime scene investigator.
And what is a crime scene investigator?
A crime scene investigator responds to any scene or that detectives or patrol sergeants or officers dispatch us to. We respond to process the scenes for evidence. The processing includes photography, note-taking, diagramming. We also do Pharaoh Scans, which is an electronic device that'll create a 3D view of the scene.
And how long have you worked for the police department in that capacity?
As of today, approximately 5.5 years.
And did you respond to 3571 Murfreesboro Road on April 22nd of 2018?
I did, yes.
And can you describe when you got to the scene, what you found?
When I arrived on scene, patrol officers were already there. The scene had already been put up with crime scene tape around the perimeter of the parking lot. There were multiple different units still responding when I responded. When my first initial view of the crime scene itself, I noted that there were 3 deceased individuals at the scene. I was also notified that several victims had been transported to hospitals. There were numerous cartridge casings in the parking lot and the interior of the business, as well as a firearm. And the parking lot contained several vehicles still.
And for this particular scene, were you the only crime scene investigator that was working, or did you work with a team?
I worked with a team. When I responded initially, 3 partners responded with me. We all work the midnight shift, and then we had 2 additional individuals meet us there later in the morning from the day shift team.
Were you the lead investigator in that team?
That's correct.
And take us through kind of your process of leading that investigation. I know you've described the scene as you found it, but what were the first steps that you took?
So when we first arrived on scene, I met with Detective Patton and the Vice President of the Waffle House. It was imperative to me to view the surveillance video first off to get an accurate description of the suspect, as well as an understanding of what took place, what the incident was.
And were you able to do that?
Yes.
And have portions of that surveillance video been kind of put together to give an accurate depiction of what happened that night?
As far as I know. Mm-hmm.
Your Honor, at this time, there's no objection with defense. We have agreed that the surveillance video would be entered, but I would ask that this disc that has 5 separate videos on it be introduced as the next numbered exhibit. Not right now. And Investigator Connor, you said that you viewed the surveillance video, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
And then what were your next steps?
After viewing the surveillance video, I had established the back door to the restaurant as our what we deemed like the working entrance. That way we aren't going through the front door where I had viewed the suspect entering and exiting. That eliminates any additional evidence being introduced to that area, as well as taking away any evidence. After establishing that, we had put up these black screens for the 2 victims outside the restaurant. We do that to maintain their privacy and to keep the view of any additional people driving down the road from viewing the victims. After putting up the scene screens, we kind of had to take a step back out of the scene. There was some concern about the truck, so we had to wait for bomb squad to arrive and clear the truck. While they were doing that, from my view of the surveillance video, I had seen the suspect taking his jacket off as he exited, so my thought was, where is the jacket? Was it still with him, or had he maybe lost it or dropped it during his flight? So I had started to walk his path of flight south down Murfreesboro and located the jacket.
And as part of that process, I know that you were describing photography and note-taking and Pharaoh scans. Did they use Pharaoh scans at this particular scene?
Yes, we did.
And can you describe what a Pharaoh scan is generally?
So a Pharaoh scan is an electronic device. It uses a laser beam and mirrors to collect millions of data points. The data points are then put into a point cloud, and using associated software, that point cloud is then rendered into 3D imaging of the scene. We're not talking like a model. It'll be almost like a video. It'll allow anybody viewing it to view the scene as I saw it when I was processing it. So it'll be almost as though you're there walking through the scene with me when you view it.
And is it, obviously it's more complicated than this, but is it kind of like taking a picture and wrapping it around so that you can move around that picture image?
Yes, it's a 360 view. So you can rotate, with the software, you can rotate the image you're looking at to look all around you, up at the sky.
And the Pharaoh scans that were done at this scene, I guess, are there a lot of them?
Yes.
And were they done of the exterior and interior of that scene?
Yes, so we scanned both the exterior and the interior of the scene using 2 scanners, and then the scans from the 2 were stitched together to create an overall Pharaoh viewing.
And were photographs taken of that scene?
Yes.
And I would assume that there are a large number of photographs taken.
We took almost 900 photographs, including the overall of the exterior and interior, all evidence, the victims.
And have certain photographs been linked into the Pharaoh scans for purposes of showing the Pharaoh to the jury at this trial?
Yes, they have.
And at this time, I would ask that the Pharaoh scan, which is on a thumb drive that we have, just be marked as the next numbered exhibit, which I believe will be number 4.
Correct.
And I will ask to submit it once we are finished publishing it, but I would also ask to publish that to the jury.
No?
Investigator Connors, can you kind of just describe what is being shown on the screen right here?
So this is an overall, like, what's termed as a bird's eye view of the scene itself. The little purple or blue or red little numbered markers are where each of the Pharaoh scanners have been set up and collected each individual scan.
Now I am going to begin by going to the scan that is labeled 100-100. And can you describe what is seen here? And I am going to pan towards the south. Or I'm sorry, towards the north of Murfreesboro Road.
Yes, so here we have Murfreesboro Road. Across the street was a shopping complex where media and a lot of people were arriving for the scene. This is one of the entrances into the Waffle House off Murfreesboro Road from the north side. We had brought out our large crime scene truck out to the scene. Inside there's workbenches and all of our processing stuff that we can use to process evidence right inside the truck, as well as to keep it safe and secure once it's collected. So here we have, you can see two sets of crime scene tape. So we have the interior crime scene tape and the exterior. The interior maintains the scene itself. That sidewalk in between we used as our area to like liaison with detectives and anybody else arriving to the scene. And the exterior disallows anybody not allowed into the scene from coming even onto the sidewalk.
And I'm going to go to scan 101. And can you just describe what is seen here?
So this scan has moved south down the sidewalk. Usually, the scanners are usually placed about 20 steps, 15 to 20 steps from each other, so that there is some overlapping data. This is the Waffle House at 3571 Murfreesboro Pike.
And there appears to be, I think you've already identified the beige truck.
Yes.
Can you describe what's next to it?
So to the right of it, right here, is that black scene screen that I have been describing. So behind that, it was put up to block the view of one of the victims lying on the sidewalk.
And it appears that the doors to that vehicle are open.
Correct.
Is that how the vehicle was found, or can you describe?
When I originally arrived on scene, the doors were shut. They were open when bomb squad had cleared the vehicle.
And did you determine anything about the other vehicles that were in the parking lot that day?
So most of the vehicles they belonged to either patrons that were there at the time of the incident or workers. I had been later informed that the Honda at the front of the scan right here is what belonged to the victim, Mr. Perez, and that the car to the right of the truck, this one right here, had belonged to, I believe, Sharita Henderson.
And going to scan 102, can you describe what is shown here?
This is also a view of the Waffle House, more of a direct view of the front door. The Waffle House is located on the west side of Murfreesboro Pike, so this would be the east side of the restaurant.
And moving to scan 004, can you describe what is shown here?
Yes, so this is just another angle of that parking lot and the Waffle House. Moving down on the scan, you can see that the parking lot continued along the west side of the building, which also led to an exit back over here that came out onto Summercrest Boulevard. As you can also see, the little spots, it had started raining while we were out there.
And the next scan is 003. Can you describe what is seen here?
This is the northwest corner, well, where the Waffle House is the northwest corner of this intersection. Yep. So on the streets here, we have this street right here is going to be Murfreesboro Pike. South is the farther away view, and it runs north. Going this way is Summercrest Boulevard, and then if you cross the intersection, it turned into Pinhook.
And moving to scan 002, can you describe what is shown here?
So this is a closer view of that intersection. Those trucks are parked on Summercrest Boulevard into the entrance of that neighborhood.
And moving to scan 001.
Yes, so in this view, you can see that more crime scene tape has been put up over here at the corner of the intersection. That is where I had located the green jacket believed to have been Mr. Reinking's when he had fled southbound on Murfreesboro Pike.
And it appears that there are two people that are standing there.
Yes, the two individuals here are officers. Anytime we find any evidence in an exterior part of the scene, we always make sure that an officer stands by it to ensure that it is not removed or tampered with.
And moving to scan 000, can you describe what is shown here?
So this is closer to where that jacket had been found. This is the intersection Murfreesboro. If you look up the hill in the view we have here, that is going to be southbound on Murfreesboro Pike. And where you have right there with the number 1 is the jacket I had been describing. It was green in color and labeled evidence marker 1.
And is that how the jacket was found?
Yes, it is.
And I am going to click on the evidence marker 1. And this will be photograph. There are actually a set of 41 photographs that are included in the Pharaoh scan. Those will be marked A through OO, and those will be submitted as a collective exhibit with the actual Pharaoh scan.
So the scan itself, we're gonna mark as exhibit 4, and the photos contained within it 4 or 5. 4-1, A through 00. How do you want to do it? Which way do you want to do it?
If we can do the thumb drive is 4, and then the photographs is 5, A through OO, so that they're separated.
Exhibit 5, A through 00.
And so this first photograph is exhibit 5A. Could you describe what is shown in this photo?
This is a photograph of that jacket marked as evidence 1. That ruler placed up at the top corner of the photo, we place for the Pharaoh scans. It helps to keep the Pharaoh scans accurate because we can use the Pharaoh scans to create a diagram later based on measurements. But that is the jacket that I had located at the southwest corner of the intersection.
And this is exhibit 5B.
So within the jacket, in each of the front pockets, I had located a rifle magazine, each containing 30 cartridges.
And can you mark those two magazines?
Yeah, so here is one of them that have been removed from the one pocket, and then the other one's still inside that pocket.
And this image is 5C. Could you describe what's shown here?
Here we are demonstrating with the photo the cartridges that were still inside the magazine.
And Investigator Connor, did you collect those items as part of processing this scene?
Yes, we did.
And Your Honor, I'm going to ask that the witness be handed an item.
Thank you.
Do you recognize the item that's just been handed to you?
Yes, it contains a ripped green jacket with possible blood stains.
And is that the jacket that you collected from this scene that you've just described?
Yes, it is.
And Your Honor, at this time, I would ask that that be entered as the next numbered exhibit, which I believe would be number 6.
Number 6.
And if I can ask the witness to hand another item. Do you recognize the item that was just handed to you?
Yes, it contains 2 TAM rifle magazines from pocket of green jacket.
And these items of evidence, do they have labels that have a complaint number and other identifiers where you're easily able to tell what the item is?
Yes, so all of our packaging will have the complaint number associated with the incident, the time and date it was collected, as well as the location, and then The evidence seals will have my date and time, or my initials and the date.
And Your Honor, I would ask that that item be introduced as the next numbered exhibit. And I have a third item to hand this witness. Do you recognize the item that was just handed to you?
Yes, it's 60 RP 223 Remington cartridges from the magazines.
And those were collected from the actual magazine and removed and packaged separately, is that correct?
Correct, yes, so 30 each came from each of the two magazines.
And Your Honor, at this time, I ask that that item be introduced as the next number exhibit, which I believe
Number 8.
is number 8. And so I am going back to scan 001, which you have already described, and going back to scan 002. And now going to scan 006. Can you describe what is shown here?
This is the parking lot that is located on the south side of the restaurant. Here you can see we also still have the 2 layers of crime scene tape put up. And over, kind of by that, I believe by the blue tent over, somewhere over here, was a second entrance exit to the restaurant off Summercrest Boulevard.
And can you describe what is shown here?
This is a view of the south side of the restaurant. The windows towards the bottom middle squares, 2 of them appeared to have bullet strikes to them.
And I am moving to the photograph that is actually labeled broken glass window. Can you describe what is shown here?
So this is a close-up photograph of those 2 windows on the south side of the business. There appear to be at least 2, if not more, bullet strikes through that window, those 2 windows.
And this is Exhibit 5D. Can you mark on this screen what you're referring to as the at least 3 strikes to this window?
Yes, so there's one right there, and possibly a third one here. It's hard to tell with how the window had fractured and broken out, because there could be additional in that missing glass. But for sure, the 2 at the bottom, we had clearly identified as bullet strikes through those windows.
And I am moving now to scan 005. Could you describe what is shown here?
This is the parking lot more towards the front of the business. The truck you see, the tan or gold truck, is the suspect's vehicle. The little yellow markers in the parking lot are marking the evidence or cartridge cases that we had located. You also can see in this view one of those black screens right here. This is where Mr. Perez had been located.
And I am moving out to scan 009. Can you describe what is shown here?
Yes, so this scans a little closer to that truck and the evidence. You can see that we marked the evidence starting with evidence marker 2 because the jacket had been 1. So you can clearly see 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, which were all cartridge casings. They were all RP223 Remington.
And I am moving to what is marked in the Pharaoh as EM2 through 6, which is Exhibit 5E. Could you describe what is shown in this photograph?
So this is a photo of that same view you had seen previously on the Pharaoh scan. Here you can clearly see that 2 is marking a cartridge case, 3 is marking a cartridge case. And then there are more up by the door of his vehicle as well as near the sidewalk. From this view, you can also see that the truck had an Illinois license plate on it.
And did you collect all of those cartridge casings with the evidence markers 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6?
After all processing was done, yes.
And I am moving to EM 7 through 11, which is Exhibit 5F. Could you describe what is shown here?
This is a closer photograph of those markers 7 through 11 near the driver door of the truck. They also are all marking cartridge casings. All were also the same brand, RP223 Remington.
And I am moving to what is marked in the Pharaoh as EM 17. And this is also Exhibit 5G. Could you describe what is shown in this photograph?
When searching the scene, we also searched the bed of the truck, and 17 is also marking an RP223 Remington cartridge case.
And moving in the Pharaoh to what is marked as D2, and this is Exhibit 5H. Can you describe what is shown here?
This is the front of the truck. This device back here behind the truck is that Pharaoh scanner that I've been referencing. The top part of it, this part, will spin around to collect that 3D point scan. Evidence marker 12 on the hood, down past the hood near where the windshield wipers were, was also a cartridge casing. And then right here is a bullet defect to the hood of the vehicle. And we had determined that it had gone from the driver's side towards the passenger side of the vehicle.
And you refer to that as a bullet defect, but does that appear to be a bullet hole where one of the bullets struck the hood of that vehicle?
Yeah, bullet hole, strike, defect. Mm-hmm.
And moving to what is marked in the Pharaoh as EM12. And this image is Exhibit 5I. Could you describe what is shown here?
This is a photograph of that cartridge casing I've been talking to, that had been down within the hood by the windshield wipers. It's right here. So that was marked with evidence marker 12.
And was that collected along with the other shell casings that you have testified about up to this point?
Yes, it was.
And moving to Pharaoh Scan 10016, could you describe what is shown here?
This scanner is placed near the sidewalk or on the sidewalk, near the entrance to the restaurant. To the right here, we have a window that also had a bullet defect in it. And then this back parking lot is to the south side.
And I am clicking on what is marked as broken glass window, which this is also Exhibit 5J. Could you describe what is shown in this image?
This is a photograph of that broken window that I was describing. There appeared to be a bullet defect to the window there. With the amount of glass that had shattered out, there could have also been several others. It was unclear, but we could see one for sure through that window.
And still in this scan, kind of going back through the parking lot, can you describe what is shown here?
These black screens are those screens I had talked about, the scene screens that we put up to block the view of anybody on the street from the victim. The victim at the bottom of the screen closer in is Mr. Perez, and then you can see Mr. Sanderlin back here on the sidewalk, as well as the suspect's vehicle.
And I am going to go to what is marked in the Pharaoh as V2 and what is also Exhibit 5K. Can you describe what is shown in this image?
That is victim Sanderlin, who was found on the sidewalk near the northeast corner of the restaurant.
And I am clicking on what is marked in the Pharaoh as EM 13 through 16. It is also Exhibit 5L. Could you describe what is shown here?
This is a photograph of several cartridge casings that we had marked 13, 14, 15 near on the sidewalk in front of the restaurant. That's the suspect's vehicle to the left side of the photo. The scale again is used in our Pharaoh scans to create an accurate measurement.
And I am moving to what is marked in the Pharaoh as EM 16. And this is also Exhibit 5M. Could you describe what is shown in this image?
This is the victim, Mr. Perez. Evidence marker 16 was marking the hat that was laying next to his body.
And this photograph has been redacted in some way, is that correct?
Correct. There have been, in post-processing, the little 2 black squares near the hat have been placed there.
And the Pharaoh, can you describe I've imaged down and there's a white semicircle. Could you describe what that is?
So the white semicircle, or it'll be a full circle, but it is where the legs of the stand for the scanner are. It can't scan down around between those legs. So in the base of those triangle legs, there will be a circle that doesn't get scanned. That's why we do multiple, so that any additional will cover and then complete that view of that. Towards the wall of windows on the left side, right here, was what appeared to be a bullet strike to those bricks.
And I am going to go what is marked as D4 within the Pharaoh. It is also Exhibit 5N. Could you describe what is shown in this image?
Yes, so here's a view towards the windows from that. Here we have marked that defect I was referencing with a sticker scale to give a size of the defect. And it appears that there was a ricochet mark leading to that defect on the concrete.
If I could have just one moment. Your Honor, the parties have agreed to allow this witness to testify more than once, and at this time, I'm going to complete this portion of her testimony.
All right. Just to explain members of the jury, usually when a witness is called to testify, they testify out of any of the factual knowledge that they have because of the way this case unfolded. It's necessary to kind of break them down into parts and make it make sense to you. Ross?
Yes, Your Honor. Good afternoon.
Hello.
So just a couple of quick questions.
Mm-hmm.
You did extensive pictures and the Pharaoh scanning of the parking lot, correct?
Correct.
And specifically, there were several scans that dealt with the positioning of the vehicles in the parking lot, correct?
That captured the vehicles,
Mm-hmm.
yes. Mm-hmm.
And you said that the tan truck is the one you're attributing to it being Mr. Reinking's truck. Is that correct?
From viewing the surveillance view, that's the vehicle that the suspect had exited out of, yes.
And that parking lot that you were in, it had 2 handicap spaces, if you recall.
I don't recall per
that?
se, but
It's fair to say from the pictures that you showed, I believe it being Exhibit 5E, and the Pharaoh scan number was 009, that if the scan showed that there was an empty handicap spot in front of the window of the Waffle House and another handicap spot where Mr. Reinking's truck was situated to the right of that, would you dispute that?
I'd have to see the photo again that you're referring to.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this. I mean, you looked at these photos to prepare for today, right?
There were almost 900 photos,
Right.
so I can't say which exact photo you're referencing, sorry.
Right, and the ones that, and I'm just speaking now about the ones that you went over with the district attorney during your examination just now. You saw those when she was
Right.
showing them to you, correct?
Correct.
Do you recall there being a photo of Mr. Reinking's truck? that you
Yeah, there
reviewed?
were several photos of the truck. I can't remember the exact positioning. My focus was more on the evidence in the photos.
Right.
If you could show me the photo again that you're referring to.
Do you have a physical copy of 5E? Oh, thank you. Your Honor, I'm going to publish picture 5E.
It's more than that.
That didn't come out. There you go. You're good.
All right, can you see that photograph?
Yes, it appears his truck might be in a handicap spot.
All
Yes.
right. And what I'm showing you has been previously marked as the state's Exhibit 5E,
Okay.
just for clarity of the record. And do you note that there's a empty spot, I guess, to the left of the yellow lines?
Over, are you referring to here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. And that's where the actual windows to the Waffle House begin. Is that correct?
That's correct.
To the right of that is a brick wall. Is that right?
To
To the right of those windows, if you were staring at the Waffle House, kind of the same vantage point that this picture's taken, if you're standing at the Waffle House, to the right of those windows is a brick wall that's part of the Waffle House, correct?
on the Waffle House or by the parking lot of the Waffle House?
No, I mean, what you're, the building. The building that is the Waffle House, it's
Yes.
brick, right?
Yes.
Huh? All right. So when you're staring at it, at the Waffle House from this vantage point where this picture was taken, do you see if you're looking at the Waffle House, do you see a bunch of windows?
To the left of the photo, yes.
Yes.
Or windows.
To the right of the photo, what do you see?
In front of the truck is brick, yes.
Right. Not glass.
Correct.
All right. Thank you. Those are my questions.
Raise your hand.
No, thank you.
Thank you. Investigator, you may sit down.
Thank you.
Mr. President, please do not discuss any of your testimony.
Yes, sir.
All right, call your next witness.
Instead of call Chelsey Owens. Would you stand right here and raise your right hand and be sworn, please?
You solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Trustee Goodman, believe you do.
All right, good afternoon. Would you please state your name for the record?
Chelsey Owens.
Ms. Owens, you can take off your mask, make sure everybody can clear with hearing and everything.
And Ms. Owens, can you spell your first and last names?
CHELSEY, OWENS.
Great, thank you. Back on April 21st, going into April 22nd, 2018, or in the early morning hours of that Sunday morning, April 22nd, who were you with?
I was with Alexis Peoples and Kayla Shaw.
Okay, and make sure you keep your voice up, please.
Oh, sorry.
And ma'am, where had y'all been?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Where had y'all been before you?
We had went to a party prior to going to the Waffle House.
Okay, great. Who was driving?
Kayla Shaw was driving.
Right, and who decided to go to the Waffle House?
It was my choice to go to Waffle House when we decided to go.
All right, and were you planning to eat in the Waffle House or?
We had ordered to go to, Kayla actually went in to pick up the Waffle House that we ordered to go.
Okay. Where did y'all park when you got to the Waffle House?
We were parked in the back side of, the back part of the parking lot, like right in front of the door almost, but not in the parking spot in front, but the second row of parking
The
spaces.
second row of parking spaces. And did you back into that parking space?
Yes, sir.
All right. Who was driving at that time?
Kayla was the one that backed in the parking space and went inside the Waffle House.
All right. What did you and Alexis do when Kayla walked in?
We were sitting in the car talking.
All right. Did you see this goldish brownish truck pull in and park in the handicapped space right in front of the,
Yes, sir,
Waffle
I
House?
did.
and was there anything odd about it?
Yeah, when he pulled in, it was very aggressive. Was driving just irate when he was pulling in.
Did you notice it at the time?
Yeah, I noticed it at the time.
Did y'all talk about it at the time?
Nah, we didn't talk about it. We were talking about something else, but I noticed how he pulled in.
All right. Did the driver of that truck get out immediately
No.
upon parking? How long do you think the driver sat in the car before he got out?
I'm really not sure as far as the time frame is, how long he sat in the car, but it wasn't immediate that he got out. He sat in the car for a moment before he got out.
Could you tell what, if anything, he was doing inside the truck?
I couldn't see inside of the vehicle.
All right. At some point, did you see the driver of that truck get out of the car?
Yes, sir.
And what did you see when that happened?
I saw him get outside of the vehicle. It looked like he had something in his hand, might have been a cigarette or something, not sure. And then I saw him just stand there and lift the gun up and start to shoot.
Okay. What was he wearing, if anything? Did you notice that?
It was just a long coat, that's all I remember.
All right. Do you remember anything else about his clothing at all?
No, the only thing that I could see from where I was that he had a coat, like a long trench coat on. I couldn't see anything past the coat.
Okay. At what point did you notice that he had a gun?
When he raised it up after, like I saw him raise the gun up and he took the shot and I watched the whole thing. It's kind
Okay. Can you describe the gun in any way? Was it a little handgun? Was it a bigger gun?
It was just a longer gun. It was like, I don't know what kind of gun. I'm not really familiar with them, but it was a big gun and he raised it up and started shooting.
Can you demonstrate for the jury how he raised it up and started shooting?
Yeah, it was just a simple, just like casually just raised the gun up. It was just raised it up and the first shot went off.
Okay. Did you see the direction he was shooting?
The way he was standing, he was like at an angle of the door when he raised the gun. I'm not sure as far as like where the gunshot went. I was more so paying attention to the gun.
All right. Did you see who he was shooting at?
Not particularly the person who he was shooting at. All I saw was him shooting. I was paying more attention to him than the people he was shooting at.
Okay. Did you see either of the men fall to the ground after he shot them?
Yes, I did.
Were you able to see both men as they
Yes.
fell to the ground?
Yes, sir.
What did he do after he got done shooting those men?
He walked inside of the Waffle House and started shooting the people in the booth. And he continued to walk around to shoot people as he walked through the front part of where they have the bar, and he walked that way.
All right, so he walks in the entryway to the Waffle House, right? And were you, from where y'all were parked, could you see in through that glass?
Yes, sir. I could see through the glass.
All right. Did he start shooting toward his right or toward his left when he walked in there?
When he walked in the booth, it was it was people sitting in the booth to the right side of him when he walked in.
Okay. After he got done shooting at those folks, what did he do?
He continued to walk past. It was the way that the Waffle House was. He continued to walk past the bar area to shoot, and then he came back.
All right, so he shot to his right, and then he took a few steps to his left and was shooting in that direction as well?
I wouldn't say to the left. I'm not pretty sure as far as where his steps were taken. I really wasn't paying attention
But
to
toward
the
the
steps.
bar area?
Yes, sir.
All right. And then what did he do after he got done shooting in that direction?
He came back around towards it was like walking towards the entrance area where him and James Shaw began to fight over the gun.
Were you able to see Travis Reinking and James Shaw actually get into their fight?
Yes, I did not see the first initial punch where he hit him, but I did see them tussling over the gun.
Right.
And like fighting each other, and I watched him run out of the Waffle House.
All right. Were you able to see when the two men got the gun over their head?
Yes, sir.
And did you see when the gun was thrown back toward
Over
cookie
the
area?
counter? Yes, sir.
All right. After the gun was thrown over the counter, what did those two men continue to fight?
A little bit. They tussled a little before he ran out.
Okay. And when you say he ran out, who ran out?
Travis.
Okay. So after that tussle with James Shaw, Travis Reinking was now back outside of the Waffle House. Is that correct?
Correct.
And you said when he ran away, what did he do?
When he ran away towards the left side of the Waffle House, going towards the left. And we were still sitting there, and Kayla, she ran out. Probably like a few minutes after he ran out, Kayla ran out as well, and she got in the car and we drove off. As we were driving off, we saw him running down the street in the grass area, like not too far off the road.
All right. Before even as he was running down the road and before Kayla was able to run out to you, what did you do? Did you get on the phone with anybody?
I was on the phone the entire time. When he made the first shot, I believe I called the dispatch like as soon as he made the first shot, because it was shocking at first.
And when you say call dispatch, you mean call 911?
911, yes, sorry, yeah.
So you called 911. As soon as you first shot, you're calling 911.
Yeah, it was probably like a few seconds after, because I was in shock a little bit. But once I realized like what was really going on and it was real, I called 911, and I stayed on the phone with 911 until the police came at the gas station.
Okay. So when Kayla runs out, you're still on the phone with 911?
Yes, sir.
And what did Kayla do when she got out and got back to the car?
She drove off.
All right. So now it's still you, Kayla, and Alexis in the car, and Kayla's driving off, and you're still on 911?
Yes, sir.
All right. As you drove off, what direction did you go?
When we came out of the parking lot, we went to the left because we went through the light, headed towards the Shell station down the street from the Waffle House.
And did you, from the time you left the parking lot, did you see Travis Reinking again?
Yes.
Where did you see him?
We saw him probably, it was a few yards from the Shell station where I saw him, because I remember telling the dispatch lady that he was between the wooded area right before you got to the Shell station. So I saw him running in that direction.
All right. How far away from the Waffle House was that?
To be honest, I'm not really sure. It's not that far. It's probably like a couple of minutes down from the Waffle House.
A few hundred yards, maybe?
Yeah.
And at that point was how long from the time that you'd seen him run out of the Waffle House? A minute or two? Longer? Less?
To be honest with you, I can't remember. Time really wasn't, everything was moving pretty fast at that time.
Okay.
But it wasn't far after, like, we left out.
All right. When you got to the gas station, what did y'all do?
We waited there for an officer. The lady said that the ambulance and the officer would be coming, and we waited there for somebody to eventually come.
And did you stay there in in the parking lot of that gas station until police came?
Yes, sir.
And then you cooperated with the police at that point and told them everything that you saw?
Yes, sir.
All right. Was Kayla injured when she got back in the car?
We were unsure. That's the only reason we stopped at the gas station is because we didn't know if she had got hit or not. I did see blood was on her and she had scratches and stuff, but we weren't sure if she had been hit or not.
Okay, great. And did all this happen in Nashville, Davidson County?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Just a second, Judge. We got it. All right. Those are my questions, Judge.
Oh,
1 second. No question.
all right, thank you, ma'am. You may sit down. Call your next witness.
The state's next witness is Tricia Perez.
Would you stand right here and raise your right hand and be sworn, please?
You solemnly swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
You can record your statement. Step down.
Hello. Hello, Ms. Perez. Could you please state your full name for the record?
It's Patricia Perez, P-A-T-R-I-C-I-A, last name Perez, P-E-R-E-Z.
And are you the mother of Joe Perez Jr.?
Yes.
Is that your only son?
No, I have 2 older sons as well.
And I'm going to ask that this witness be handed an item. Ms. Perez, do you recognize the item that's just been handed to you?
Yeah.
And can you describe that photograph?
This was taken at his second cousin's birth. It was a picture that was taken. I used to call him Kim K. He used to love to take photographs. He was a selfie king.
And is that a photograph of your son, Joe Perez Jr.?
Yes, it is.
And Your Honor, at this time I would ask permission to publish that photograph and also ask that it be introduced as the next numbered exhibit, which I believe is number 9.
Correct.
Ms. Perez, what is your son's birthday?
September 22nd, 1997.
And in April of 2018, how old was your son?
He was 20 years old.
And how long had he been living in Nashville?
Exactly 4 months. His brother came up here to open up a business. His brother's business expanded. He wanted family. So we were all going to make the move to Nashville together. But he asked Joey to come down first because the business was getting bigger. So Joey decided to go ahead and come with his brother at that time. So I drove him down here to Nashville on December 22nd of 2017.
And did your son, did he have a car that he drove when he lived in Nashville?
Yeah, he had a 2007 Honda Civic. Like I said, I drove him down here just to make sure that he got here safe. That was one of the things that we agreed on, and I flew home. And yeah.
And after April 22nd of 2018, did you see his car again?
Yeah, on the day the incident, my mother called me to inform me that Joey hadn't made it home, and she had witnessed something on the TV, and she was worried, and she wanted me to call Joey because Joey always answered me. I called, he didn't answer, I didn't get anything, and then I asked my mother to wake up my son and tell my son to go to his cousin's house, but I ended up pinging Joey's phone, and it pinged at the Waffle House. That's where I sent his brother to. His brother found out. I flew out next day.
Ms. Perez, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I need to ask you specifically about the car.
Okay, so
When you saw the car again, was there anything wrong with it?
yes, the flashers were on, and when I went with the key to go and drive the car, we were going to drive the car back to my son's house. He had a flat.
So he had a flat tire on his.
He had a flat tire on the front driver's side.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Perez. I don't have any other questions.
No question.
Thank you, Ms. Perez. You mentioned that. What is your next one?
Blanch Anderson.
Right hand, raise your right hand to be sworn to.
Solemnly swear to affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Ma'am, could you tell us your name, please, and spell your first and last name for us?
My name is Blanch Anderson. First name Blanch, B-L-A-N-C-H. Last name Anderson, A-N-D-E-R-S-O-N.
Miss Anderson, did you know Torian Sunderland during his lifetime?
Yes, I did.
And are you related to him?
Yes, I'm his aunt.
And on his mother's or father's side?
Mother's side.
So, were you there around, knowing him from birth?
Known him from the day he was born. I live in Illinois. I came down and spent the first 2 weeks of his life with my sister when he was born.
And did you stay in touch with him throughout his lifetime?
He lived with me a couple of years in Illinois, so we were very close.
Ms. Anderson, I'm going to ask the court officer to take a photograph up to you. The council's seen, approved. Being handed a photograph, do you recognize the person in that photograph?
Yes, I do.
And who is that?
This is Torian.
And I would ask that be, I believe, exhibit number 10, Your Honor.
All right.
I know it gets a little awkward getting the TV back and forth, but if we could.
My staff can use the exercise. Been all today. He needs to be working.
Ms. Anderson, looks like a picture of a very happy young man.
He was. He had a beautiful smile.
Did you know what he was doing for a living?
Torian loved to cook from a little boy up, and he was a chef at the Waffle House.
Did he enjoy his work?
He loved his work. He's always loved cooking, and he wanted to be a chef one day.
Do you know approximately about how long he had been working at the Waffle House before this incident?
Tori started working at the Waffle House February 17th of 2016.
And do you know how long he had been at this particular Waffle House?
At this particular Waffle House, he had just transferred down there on February of 2018.
So was it a relatively new Waffle House?
Relatively new, and he transferred there to be closer to home. He lived about 3 blocks from there.
When was the last time you saw Torian alive?
The last time I saw him, I came down for Thanksgiving, and I helped him cook a Thanksgiving dinner. That was the Thanksgiving before the year he was killed.
And are his mother and father here in the courtroom today?
Yes, they are.
I ask you, though, to
Yes, they asked me
do
to speak
this.
for Tori.
Those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
No question,
Thank you, Dennis. You want to say something?
Thank you.
Go ahead, next one.
Under the state recalls Investigator Danielle Connor.
Is it reminded you should all okay?
Investigator Connor, we left off kind of right outside the Waffle House with your crime scene processing.
Yes.
Which I would ask if we can go back to that same point that we left off at.
Okay. Do they? Okay.
And you had just described the defect in the sidewalk.
Correct.
And I am now going to navigate to scan 12. And can you describe what we're seeing here?
So the scan is now inside the restaurant. The windows right here to the left are the ones that we were viewing from the exterior of the business.
And so as you pan to the left, you see that broken glass at the front of the building.
Correct.
As well as you can see the vantage point to the suspect vehicle, correct?
Correct.
And can you describe what is seen in this direction as we have continued to pan towards the front door?
Yes, so the front door consisted of a double entry. There were 2 doors. So the exterior door is the one here, and then it was kind of a square little entryway, and then this was a secondary door into the business. Again, you see that little yellow evidence numbered markers that we put out to mark what we were collecting as evidence. On the floor by the white towels is also apparent blood. And then you had 3 booths along this north wall of the restaurant, and then some counter seating. This darker door led into a hallway where the bathrooms were.
And just to clarify, this front door area here, there are no strike marks to that door, is that correct?
Not that we had seen, no.
I think there's a smudge and maybe a glare there, but there's no actual strike marks.
Correct.
And kind of panning back towards where we began the scan over by the booth.
Mm-hmm.
I am clicking on what is labeled booth with glass in the Pharaoh, which is exhibit 5O. Can you describe what is shown in this image?
So previously, when we were on the exterior of the building, we had seen some windows. This is going to be on the south side that had 2 to 3 defects to it. This is that interior view of those same windows. So we had that first broken window here, and then the second one is over here behind those booths. Right here on the back side of that booth is another bullet defect that we had labeled.
And navigating to what is labeled in the Pharaoh as D1, and there are 2 photographs. The first photograph, 650, which is introduced as exhibit 5P. Can you describe what is shown there?
This is a closer up photo of that defect I was just talking about. And we have this long scale going vertically is to give a height of that defect on the back side of that booth. So we had labeled with the scale as defect 1, and this was what we had determined to be the entry side of that defect.
And navigating to the second photograph, which is labeled 0657 and is introduced as exhibit 5Q, can you describe what is shown here?
This is the other side of that same booth. Here it's labeled D1A and was what we determined to be the exit side of that defect.
And navigating to Pharaoh Scan 11, can you describe what is shown here?
So these are booth seatings that were along the south side of the restaurant. The defect I was talking to was on the back side of this bench seating. 37, the little yellow marker, 37 was for a black Nike tennis shoe that was under the table. And then 35 right here was a pile of clothes and some white towels. Over to the right side, there's a little walkway that goes behind the counter into the kitchen service area.
And I am navigating to what is labeled EM 35 and 37. Can you describe what is shown here?
This is a photograph of those 2 markers I just mentioned, with 37 being the tennis shoe under the table and 35 being a hat and a sweater, and then there were some white towels also brought out.
And this is exhibit 5R. And I am going to navigate back to scan 12. And again, can you describe what is shown here?
Yes, so we have the front entry doors. To the left side behind the counter was the cooking, the kitchen area. We We have evidence markers 21, 20, and then towards the back wall, there's some more evidence markers marking additional cartridge casings.
And I am navigating to what is marked as EM 20 through 21 and is Exhibit 5S. Can you describe what is shown here?
This is a photograph of those evidence markers seen in the Pharaoh scan. Here we have evidence marker 20 being a cartridge case, as well as 21, and then farther back are additional evidence markers.
And were those collected as well?
The evidence marked with those, yes.
And navigating to what is marked as evident EM 22 in the Pharaoh scan and is Exhibit 5T, can you describe what is shown here?
This is one of those booths along that separates the kitchen. This is by the entry door here. The kitchen's on this back side. Evidence marker 18 back here was marking a cartridge case. There was a little metal well with some water, and the cartridge case was down in the water. Evidence marker 22 is also a cartridge case on the table, and then we had some cell phones and some personal items.
And does this photograph indicate where Miss Grove's body was at the time that she was found at this scene?
Yes, so at the lower bottom of the scene, of the photo, this red checkered item is that of Miss Groves.
And that image was Exhibit 5T. I am navigating to what is marked in the Pharaoh scan as EM 18. And there are two photographs, the first of which is 0582, which is Exhibit 5U. Can you describe what is shown in this image?
So this is the separation between the patron side of the restaurant and the kitchen side. So here we have the booths. This is that booth we were just looking at. And this is taken from behind the counter with evidence marker 18 referring to a cartridge case down in that well of water.
And this is 0583, which is Exhibit 5V. Can you describe what is shown here?
That's a close-up photo of that well with the cartridge case in the water, marked evidence 18.
And was that case also collected?
Yes, it was.
And I am navigating to what is marked as EM 24 through 30 in the Pharaoh scan, which this is Exhibit 5W. Could you describe what is shown here?
So this is a photo of those farther back evidence markers with additional cartridge casings marked 24, 25, 26, up to 32. As you can see the photo, there's not a 29. The 29 was off to the right of the photo. And then back here in the corner is that door leading into that back hallway where the bathrooms were, which is along the north side of the seating area.
And this photo also does not show evidence marker 23. Is that correct?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
And navigating to what is marked in the Pharaoh as EM 23, could you describe what is shown here?
So this is a photograph of a cartridge casing, the one marked 23. This is going to be under that previous table we had looked at where the markers were on top. And as I stated previously, this red and black checkered item was a piece of clothing that Miss Groves had been wearing.
And this is also the image that is Exhibit 5X. And navigating to what is marked as EM 29, can you describe what is shown here?
This photograph shows evidence marker 29 in relation to those previously viewed evidence markers, all being cartridge casings that were RP223 Remington.
And this is also Exhibit 5Y. And navigating to what is marked as EM 30 through 33. Can you describe what is shown here?
This is a closer photograph of several of the cartridge casings that were marked, evidence markers 30, 31, 32, and 33, and that's going to be that this back wall is that north side with the bathroom hallway attached.
And this image is also Exhibit 5Z. Investigator Connor, did you collect all 30 of the shell casings that you have described in your testimony today?
Yes, after all our processing was done, that being photographs, creating a diagram or sketch of the scene, and all related Pharaoh scans that we've been viewing, all 30 cartridge casings were collected as evidence.
Now I'm going to ask that this witness be handed an item. Do you recognize the item that was just handed to you?
Yes, it's 30 RP223 Remington cartridge casings with the case identifying information and my initials.
Your Honor, at this time I'd ask that that item be introduced as the next numbered exhibit, which I believe is number 11.
That's correct.
And moving back to the scan, I am navigating to what is marked as D3 in the Pharaoh scan. And there are two photographs. The first photograph, 0669, is Exhibit 5AA. Could you describe what is shown here?
Yes, so this is the hallway door leading to the bathrooms. D3 is a bullet defect or strike or bullet hole in that pane near, or the trim near that window, which subsequently shattered the window.
And are you able to mark where that strike mark is?
Yes, so the scale is labeling the strike mark to be right here. It's on the door, not the window.
And so that's about in the middle of that area, is that correct?
Correct.
And navigating to image 0675, which is introduced Exhibit 5BB, can you describe what is shown here?
So this is the back side of that same door. Here towards the top, we have the exit side of that defect labeled D3A, and we have a vertical scale marking the height of that defect on the door to be approximately 4 feet 8 inches up from the ground.
And I am navigating to what is Pharaoh Scan 017. Can you describe what is shown here?
This scan is inside that hallway leading to the bathrooms. So from this view with the scan, that bathroom door is this one here that is now open for the scan. We have the door to the right here is a door leading to the office. Evidence marker 36 at the bottom is marking a lead fragment. There's a evidence marker here. That was a rifle magazine that we had located right inside the door in that hallway. And then to the left side, we had the two bathrooms door, the two doors to the bathrooms, the men and then the women's door, which was out of order.
And I am navigating to what is marked in the Pharaoh as EM36. This is also Exhibit 5CC. Can you describe what is shown here?
So evidence marker 36 is marking this little piece of lead fragment from the projectile, and that is at the base of the door leading from the hallway into an office.
And I am navigating to what is labeled in the Pharaoh as EM34 and 36, which is also Exhibit 5D. Can you describe what is shown here?
This is a photo relating 36 and 34 to that door leading into the hallway.
And now navigating to what is marked as EM34 in the Pharaoh, which is introduced Exhibit 5EE.
Evidence marker 34 is marking a rifle magazine that is on the hallway side of the door separating the hallway from the restaurant.
And did you collect that item as part of processing this scene?
Yes.
I'm going to ask that the witness be handed an item. Investigator Connor, do you recognize the item that's just been handed to you?
It is evidence marker 34. It contains one rifle magazine.
And Your Honor, at this time I would ask that that be introduced as the next numbered exhibit, which I believe is number 12.
It is.
And I am now navigating to Pharaoh Scan 100114. And can you describe what is shown here?
This is a view. The scanner is set behind the counter on the worker or kitchen side. You can see the evidence we had previously talked about labeled 35 and 37. The shoe belonged or matched a shoe I had later received from Miss Wagner's clothing. And then the scan is now going behind the counter, so reviewing the worker area. And then within view is a rifle that we had marked as evidence marker 19 is located on the kitchen side of the counter.
And I am navigating to what is labeled EM19 in the Pharaoh scan. There are 3 images, the first being 0586 and is also exhibit 5FF. Can you describe what is shown in this image?
So this is a Bushmaster 223 rifle. It was marked as evidence marker 19. When I viewed it, there was apparent blood on it, and we also noticed that there is no magazine located inside the weapon when we had found it on the floor.
And navigating to image 0587, which is introduced 5GG. Can you describe what is shown here?
So this is a closer up photograph of the barrel of that weapon. It's a little hard to view on the photo, but there was apparent blood on this area of that weapon.
And navigating to image 0757, which is also exhibit 5HH. Can you describe what is shown in this image?
So this is a photograph of the weapon once we had picked it up off the floor and rendered it safe. This is the evidence box that we would be packaging it in. The scale at the bottom is to show the approximate length of the barrel.
And was this item also collected?
Yes, it was.
Your Honor, at this time, I'm going to ask the witness to be handed in the item.
Investigator Connor, do you recognize the item that's just been handed to you?
Yes, it's a Bushmaster rifle marked as marker 19.
And that item is the item that we've just seen in the crime scene that was collected as part of this investigation. Is that correct?
Yes, the item in the box should be that same weapon in the photo that we're viewing.
And can you describe what steps are taken to ensure that a firearm is not operational prior to it being actually put into evidence?
So when we're at scenes, when we originally pick it up and collect it, before we package it into a box and transport it to our facility, we render it safe by making sure there's not a magazine in it, which there was not when we found it. And then we also clear the chamber to make sure that there is not a chambered round. And then upon collection, we'll put a zip tie through it to show and signify that it has been rendered safe.
And as the firearm in this particular evidence piece, has it been rendered safe?
It was on scene, yes.
And Your Honor, at this time I would ask that the witness be allowed to open that item to display it to the jury.
All right. From the chair.
I believe so. I think that they can view it.
You may want to stand up.
Yeah. And that firearm has been rendered safe, is that correct?
Yes, so there's a zip tie here around it that'll signify that it was rendered safe. There's also no magazine in it, and check it to make sure. And there is no round in the chamber.
Thank you, Investigator Connor. All right, this time I would ask that that item be introduced as the next numbered exhibit, which I believe is 13.
Give it 13.
Put your chair back up.
Yeah.
All right.
And Investigator Connor, I am navigating to what is scan 100012.
Okay.
Can you describe what is shown here?
So this is at the north back end of the restaurant. This is attached. So over on this far side over here is that kitchen area we were just in. This is farther back in the kitchen with the offices. And if we pan around.
Which actually, I believe that I am in a separate scan. I'm going to navigate to 0012. If you could describe kind of what is shown here.
So this is in the threshold of the that back counter kitchen area that where the weapon had been found. You can still see it over here. And as we scan around, then we'll go into a farther kitchen area that will lead to some offices and a back entrance into the restaurant that was on the north side of the building.
And this is, if you can describe, is this the other side of that door that we saw in that bathroom area?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And that door is locked, is that correct?
Yes.
And is this the entrance that you said that the crime scene investigators were using so as to try to not disturb the scene as much as possible.
Yes, when we came in to watch the surveillance video, that's the door we had entered into. The office is off back in here. And then that's what we deemed the working entrance. So anytime we needed to come in and out to do any processing, we used this door rather than that front entrance glass door.
And Your Honor, at this time, I don't have any other questions for Investigator Connor, but we will be calling her one third and final time.
All right. Well,
No questions, ready?
all right, thank you. Let's see, let's go down once again.
Thank you.
But again, we're not discussing your testimony, but you can do your call.
Yes.
If anyone. Call your next witness.
The state's next witness is Shaundelle Brooks.
No, if you would raise your right hand and be sworn, please.
solemnly swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Ms. Brooks, can you please state your name for the record?
Shaundelle Brooks.
And Ms. Brooks, could you please spell your first name for the court reporter?
Yeah, Shaundelle.
And Ms. Brooks, do you live here in the Nashville area?
I do.
And how many children do you have?
4.
And Kayla Dasilva, is he one of your children?
He is.
And when was he born?
November 17th, 1994.
Your Honor, I'm going to ask that this witness be handed a photograph. Ms. Brooks, do you recognize the photograph that's just been handed to you?
I do.
And is that your son, Kayla Dasilva? And Your Honor, at this time I would ask that the photograph be introduced as the next numbered exhibit, which I believe would be 14. And if I may have permission to publish it to the jury? Ms. Brooks, in April of 2018, how old was Kayla?
He was 23.
And at that time, was he dating anyone in particular?
Yes.
Who was he dating?
Tia Wagner.
And is that Miss Shantia Wagner?
I'm sorry?
Miss Shantia Wagner?
Yes.
She goes by Tia, is that
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
And you said that you have 4 children. Is one of them Abede Dasilva?
It is.
And how old is your other son, Abede?
How old is?
How old is Abede? How much older is he from Kayla?
They're like 5 years apart.
And does he have a nickname that he goes by?
Abede?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Tough Daddy.
Do some people call him Ishan?
Ishan, his middle name, yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Brooks. I don't have any other questions.
Thank you. Oh,
No questions.
sorry.
Thank you, Ms. Brooks. You can sit down.
Thank you.
Call your next witness.
State calls Abede Dasilva.
please.
You solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Would you please state and spell your name?
Abede Dasilva, A-B-E-D-E, Dasilva, D-A-S-I-L-V-A.
Mr. Dasilva, did you have a brother named Kayla?
Yes.
And how old was he in relation to you?
You said how old is he?
How much older were you than him?
Like 5 years and some change. Like almost 6 years apart.
And you're the older brother?
Yes.
Were you with him on April 22nd, 2018?
Yes, I was.
Who else were you with?
My girlfriend at the time, Alexis, and Shantia, his girlfriend.
What were the four of you doing?
We had went out to a hookah lounge, and we decided we wanted to get something to eat before we went in the house.
Okay.
Just try to speak louder to the microphone.
Did you guys live in the Antioch area?
Yes, we did.
Okay. Did you live together?
No.
Were you riding together that evening?
To Waffle House, yes.
Who was driving?
Kayla was.
And about what time do you think you got to the Waffle House?
I don't know. It had to be like it was around 3 something, like 3:30, 3:15, something like that. Somewhere around 3 o'clock.
Okay. Well, I guess as you guys are driving to the Waffle House, what, if anything, are you doing or discussing?
We're just talking about, just life. I was talking to him about, just we had seen one of our cousins at the lounge, and they really weren't on speaking terms. And I was just telling him like, you guys need to just put that behind y'all and just get over. Life is too short.
You trying to give him some brotherly advice?
Yeah.
When you got to the Waffle House, what did you guys do?
We got out and we went inside, and we sat down at the chairs by the window, and we ordered our food.
Did you recognize any of the other people inside the Waffle House?
As in, did I know them?
Yeah.
No.
As you're sitting down ordering the food, what if anything is going on?
We were just sitting there waiting. It took a little while, and the killer was asking us, did we want to stay or did we want to leave?
Obviously, we're here, so you guys stayed. Why did you stay?
I think we didn't even get the chance to really decide if we really wanted to leave yet. It was when he asked me that, it was probably right before everything happened.
Okay. So you said everything happened. What do you recall happening?
All of a sudden, I just seen glass breaking and bullets flying, like hitting the glasses. Inside the store, the dishes that was set up over the stove in Waffle House, in the kitchen.
Okay. What did you do when you started hearing the glass shatter?
I ducked down and I went towards the right, towards the bathroom.
Okay. Did you know immediately that it was gunshots?
Yeah.
Okay. And you ran to the right. Did anyone go with you?
Alexis did, my girlfriend.
And what about Akila?
He went towards the left.
And Shantia?
She also went with him.
So you guys went in opposite directions?
Yeah.
Was that a plan, or did you discuss that or anything?
No, I mean, I just think by us sitting in the middle, it was probably directly in the middle of in the restaurant. So I feel like probably him going that way was faster for him, because it was like him sitting right here, I was sitting right here, and they were sitting in between us. So he was more closer to the left, and I was more closer to the right.
Okay. So what do you do when you run to the right?
We ran into the bathroom where Brendan was at the time. It was someone else in the bathroom, and we just went in there and they locked the door.
Was there a door before you got to the area where the bathrooms are?
It was a door that, like a push-in swing door to go into the hallway of the bathroom, and then there was a bathroom door to the right.
Okay. And so you said you went inside the bathroom?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay. And do you know who else was inside the bathroom with you?
Alexis was, and Brennan,
okay.
Jake Shaw's friend.
Did you know Brennan at the time?
No.
Okay. Well, what's going on while you're inside this bathroom?
Everything's registering to me what's going on now. So now that I'm thinking my brother's out there, I try to run back out there and they stop me. And before I could even run out there, it was more shots fired inside.
Okay. Were you guys scared at all?
Yeah, once I tried to run out and I heard the shots sound like it was right beside me, yeah, I just backed up away from the door.
Did something happen in the bathroom? Anything happen that maybe?
Well, Brendan was by the toilet, so like he pressed up against the flush, and it made a loud noise. So we got kind of nervous about it, thinking like somebody might hear us in the bathroom.
Before you guys entered the bathroom and locked it, were there other individuals in that back hallway space that led to the bathroom?
I didn't see anyone at the time, but after we came out, I seen someone come out of the female bathroom.
Okay. And so when you came out of the bathroom eventually, how long did you wait, I guess?
I came out of the bathroom and I heard, as soon as I was coming out, I heard everybody saying it's over, he's gone. So I went out there to the hallway, back into the restaurant, and I ran outside.
When you heard that it was over and ran outside, why did you go outside?
I was looking for my brother.
You didn't know where he was?
No. Was
he outside?
No.
Did you see anybody outside?
I seen Joe outside.
Joe Perez?
Yes.
And what did he appear to you?
He was laying there. I knew he died. I could see his head.
Okay. And you didn't know Joe Perez at the time?
No.
Okay. Did you see anyone else outside that may have been injured?
No.
Okay.
I came back in. Well, I ran down to the end, and from inside, I could see inside, and I could see where my brother and Tia was laying. So I ran back into the store. So I went back this way, went in the store. They was on the opposite side. I ran back in there, and when I seen them, when I first came out the bathroom, I seen Ebony, and I went past there, and I went outside, and I came back in. When I seen them from outside, and I went to the slit beside him, I seen him and Tia was still alive, so I ran over there to them.
Okay. You said you saw, the first person you saw when you came out of the bathroom was Ebony.
Yeah, Ebony and Sharita, yes.
And of course, you testified that you didn't know Ebony and Sharita beforehand.
No.
I guess, how did you learn these names?
I learned their names after everything happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so when you went to your brother, and where your brother Kayla and Shantia were, describe how they looked.
Well, Tia was like on her back, but she had like one foot up, and she was on her phone. I think she was talking to her mom at the time, and my brother was laying on his stomach. Both of them were they were both panicking, but my brother was panicking a little bit more. So once I seen that Tia was okay, she was shining her leg, I started giving attention to Kayla.
Okay. What was he saying, if anything?
He was just yelling my name. He was just telling me he was in pain. I was just laying there with him, just letting him know that everything's gonna be okay.
Were you able to do anything to actually kind of help him?
I just laid there with him. I didn't want to hurt him, so I just put my arm like by his back, and I laid there with him. And I just looked him in his eyes, and I was like, "You're gonna be all right."
At some point, did an officer? At some point, did any officers come into the Waffle House?
Yes.
And how about any paramedics?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
What happened once they arrived at the Waffle House?
Well, they came over there. They came to my brother, and they turned him over. And they said, I heard them talking to each other, and they were saying he was shot in the arm. And some more paramedics came in, and they started I guess they was patching him up. And they was getting a stretcher.
And did you ask them about his status, how he was doing?
Yeah, I did. They said he was fine. He just was shot in his arm. So, I just thought he was going to be okay.
And did you see them put him on the stretcher?
Yes.
And did you see them take him to the ambulance?
Yes.
Was he still alert and speaking or able to speak as he was on it?
Yeah, as he was on the stretcher, he kept jumping up off of it like he was panicking. He was saying he couldn't breathe. He kept looking at me and telling me he couldn't breathe.
Mr. Dasilva, did you get to go in the ambulance with your brother?
No.
When's the last time you saw him alive?
On the stretcher.
So is that, when he told you he couldn't breathe, is that the last words he said to you?
Yes.
When did you learn that he had deceased?
They finally let me leave, and I went to the hospital. And I was on the phone with my mom, and she kept back because she got there to the scene, and I kept telling her that he was okay. So I called her. She was like, "Are you sure he's okay?" Because they're saying someone's here and they're in critical condition. And I'm like, "Yeah, he's okay. He just was shot in his arm." I was talking to him. So we got there, and my mom was still at the emergency room in the front. And I probably wasn't even there for 5 minutes, and they took us to the back to tell us he didn't make it.
Mr. Dasilva, you recall this morning when we looked at a portion of the surveillance video from inside the Waffle House?
Yes.
Okay. And did that surveillance video, at least the portion thereof, was that a fair and accurate depiction of what happened inside the Waffle House?
Yes.
Okay. This portion of the video has already been admitted as Exhibit 3. It contained on Exhibit 3 is, it will be listed under video number 1. So I'm going to publish that a copy of that video at this time with Your Honor's permission.
All right, Mayor.
Before I hit play, can you, Mr. Dasilva, can you tell me what this image is here?
Well, right here, this is, it looks like Kayla is standing, looking at the menu, talking to the employee.
You can touch the screen.
Okay.
Part where it doesn't.
So this is Kayla right here. This is Tia right here.
Okay, all right, now I'm gonna hit play. Just, Mr. Dasilva, just there, did it appear that he was smiling to you?
Yes.
Was he happy that evening?
Yeah. We just recorded, we just did a video the day before. So we were celebrating it, and that's why we went out.
Is that you? Where are you in this video?
Right here.
And who's the lady?
This is Alexis beside me. It's my girlfriend beside me.
And do you recall what you guys are doing at this time?
We were just ordering our food.
And while this plays, you were saying, Mr. Dasilva, that you and your brother have recorded a video?
Yeah, we did a music video, and we just had released it the day before.
And you were celebrating this evening?
Yes.
Pause for me. What was that just happened that was shown in the video, Mr. Dasilva?
That's when the shots were fired into the restaurant.
You may.
Mr. Dasilva, I think the testimony just before we approached the judge was that you said the gunshot had just been fired into the Waffle House. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna hit play now. Who do you see your brother over there? On
Yes.
that side? Yeah. Keep playing. You can pause. Sorry. And what did you just see happen on the video there?
We both dug down, and he went towards the left and crawled around, and I ran towards the bathroom.
Okay. All right. Mr. Dasilva, you mentioned Shantia Wagner being next to your brother. We kind of discussed when you were over there by him. Could you describe for us what her injury looked like?
Well, I didn't know it was as bad as it was when I first seen it, because the angle that she was at from where I was standing, I couldn't see her whole leg. I just knew she was shining her leg and she was bleeding. But because she was still coherent and she was still talking to me, I just assumed that she was okay. And she was focused on my brother too. She was like, check on him. So I was more focused on what he was doing, because she seemed like, she seemed like she was more calm than my brother was.
Okay. Did you ever see the person who killed your brother?
No.
All right. Those are my questions. Thank you.
No questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Dasilva. You may sit down. Members of the jury, we're going to take our mid-afternoon recess at this point in time. Please keep in mind you cannot discuss anything about the trial of the case. Keep the thoughts to yourself and may know behind it. We'll be back in here about anything.
Ladies and gentlemen, you would forward your notebooks up and leave me the chair. Follow me, please.
Just briefly, before we start back, I'm going to remind the people in the audience that need to try and keep emotions to a minimum. I understand fully